This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is sponsored by Dynamic Industrial Services, the rope access specialists. Every week we talk about the Rovers' latest attempts to climb the SPFL ladder, but sometimes even a ladder won't reach. DIS are specialists in working at height, offering maintenance, inspection, repair and more, right across Scotland. So if you need a rope access specialist and you want a premiership service, visit dynamicindustrialservices.co.uk to find out more. The Twitter accounts are still talking, the stars are unaligned, the Great Wait is still ongoing, nothing to see, and it might be televised on Rafe TV. In a week when Manchester's most notorious siblings buried the hatchet to end 15 years of speculation, the Rafe Rovers manager hunt's just moved up to become the biggest ongoing saga to watch. Welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast. I'm your host tonight, Robbie Weir, and tonight I'm firstly delighted to be joined by Champagne Super Rover, Mr. Ali Pilmer. How you doing, Ali?
Doing very well, mate.
That's great. We've got all around the world, Leslie Mabin. Leslie, how are you?
I'm in fantastic form. For those of you that are watching, I've got an Okinawan Kariushi wear shirt on tonight because on Saturday we are welcoming Livingston, who are from the Hawaii of Scottish post-industrial new towns or something like that.
That's a new one for me, Leslie. Now, after Ian Murray's sacking, there's only one song that we could attribute this man with. Don't Look Back in Anger, is Scott Fleming.
Man needs a cuddle.
Fair play. I'm doing all right, cheers.
And simply because he was a late addition to the podcast, he initially couldn't make it, and then he turned around, did a big U-turn, and he's here now. Going nowhere, it's Blair Fleming. Blair Hopcroft.
Oh,
I was doing
it was almost smooth. I'll take it.
That's fine. You add it to the bloopers reel.
I've been called worse. That's fine.
That's fair enough. Ali, it's been a wee while since we've had you on the show, so just wanted to get your thoughts on everything really since the opening day of the season. How have you been handling and processing things?
Geez, that's a belter of a question to start with. I would say that when Ian Murray was sacked, I was very much in the Scott Fleming camp of not a fan of it. I was quite taken aback. I would say at the moment I'm somewhere between still having a bit of trust in the board and getting a wee bit impatient. I think especially because if you're going to sack a manager after the first game of the season, I think you maybe need to make a hasty appointment. And the more it goes on, the longer this transition period goes on. And I think that I thought air on the pitch, it was beginning to show a wee bit. But overall, I thought some of the performances have still been decent. I think, we showed against Partick at home that the lads are still capable of getting a result. So, yeah, I'm just tooting along at the moment.
I think it's a very tricky question to answer, like how to sum up the last month. The latest real sort of step in that was on Monday, Blair, when after sort of late last week when we had so much hope in David Healy coming across the Irish Sea to join us from Linfield, a major U-turn happened again there. Basically, news breaks that he's going to be staying with Linfield and rather than joining the Rovers. Were you quite surprised by that, or as it went on, did you think that's more liable to happen?
No, I must admit I was quite surprised. I think everything led to him coming in. I laughed because I listened to the weekend's podcast. I listened to Sunday's show on Tuesday morning. So just after this had all kind of broken. And obviously the first person to speak was Les, and it was all about how David Healy was coming in. And we're looking forward to David Healy coming in. We'll have some Healy-related chat. And I was just like, geez, we're finger on the pulse. That's what we do. And it was Duncan came straight back in with, but we better no jinx it. Oh, that worked. I actually, to be fair, I really genuinely feel for the board, because I still get Scott's annoyance. I know he's raging, but and I get people's frustration. But they've effectively done the job twice. So to be clear on what's effectively happened, two individuals have both applied for a job. We've negotiated with them, effectively got them to the point of taking that job, and they've changed their mind. I'm not really sure how that's the board's fault, other than you could potentially say that maybe they're not offering enough money. But I just don't see that being the case. I think they're paying market value effectively for the job. We are in danger at this stage of potentially doing that thing where you panic, and you appoint the wrong person for too much money or whatever it happens to be. But I genuinely don't think the board will do that. I've got a bit of faith in them that they'll kind of make the right call when the time is right. And there's I do laugh because everybody in every group chat is panicking. Everybody is. Every single person. And I'm going to say this now, Robbie, you are definitely panicking because every time I listen to the show and somebody says, like, I think it was Duncan actually said, "Are you calm?" And you went, "Yep." And I went, "No, he's not." No, he's not. No one is. We're all nervous. Do you know what I mean? Because it's huge. It matters.
I'm very much peaks and troughs territory.
You really are, mate. You really are.
Well, Scott, speaking of that, the board yesterday came out with the email, really just a very transparent sort of piece of work there to basically effectively sort of outline where they were at, the steps that have been taken, because I think there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumours as to what's happened, what's going on. Just your thoughts on that, and do you think the email that sort of suggested there was a degree of sort of fluidity, that they'd spoken to offered two managers the role, but they have spoken to sort of 10 in total, I think they were saying, and that there is still options available out there in terms of the sort of shortlist that they'd had. What were your thoughts on that? And just as well, if you can give us a thought on sort of Tim Clancy, that there had been sort of speculation tail end of last week as well, that while it was looking towards Healy, Clancy, who's doing a job at Cork at the moment, that he might be one that's to keep your eye on.
I mean, in terms of obviously the board, of course, everybody keeps going back to the fact that I didn't agree with the sacking in the first place, but I think I get, like, it's not the board's fault in terms of somebody they've went for has then applied, as Blair said, and then they've got to the point where they're literally ready to sign the papers, and then he's went, "Nah, actually, I fancy staying where I am," or whatever, or they've been given a better deal where else. But, like, I can get that, because I can imagine it's extremely frustrating, because it is for the fan base. So I can imagine for the people trying to appoint him, it's also extremely frustrating, because they think they've got their man. But, yeah, I think we are genuinely in the point now where we're reaching a month almost since this sacking, that it's got to the point, like, I was on the radio at the weekend saying, like, Kenny McIntyre was like asking what at what point do the Rovers fans, like, think, is there going to be, like, an appointment coming anytime soon? Because, like, the fact that we've got nothing other than the two managers potentially coming in and then going, nah, like, it's got to the point where we start questioning, are we actually an attractive job anymore? Like, the fact that we keep getting turned down, is their job that they're in such a better job than our job? Or are they getting better money where they are? All these questions start coming up because of this. But it is just, because we don't know, obviously, we're not in these meetings, we don't have a clue what's going on. We're just waiting until we get an update. And in terms of this Tim Clancy guy, I mean, I've looked at his record and we were chatting about him. He's absolutely no for me if he's getting relegated to the Irish Premiership. Like, that's not where we need to be going at all.
Yeah.
There's a Hunt for Red October joke in there somewhere as well, isn't there?
I'm sure there is. I'm not going to be the person to find it, unfortunately. Leslie, do you think it makes it a bit more difficult for the board at the moment, just given the nature of sort of social media, and how there's this relentless sort of there's access to people on social media. So you've got a lot of tweets over last week towards Andrew Barrowman, for example, the board of directors, and a lot of the stuff on social media, the sort of rumours and things. Do you think that makes the job a bit more difficult for the board now? What are your thoughts on things?
It's a good question, and I mean, you can't run a football club based on vibes, and I mean, you'd imagine that the board will see that, but it's not going to really, I wouldn't have thought or wouldn't have hoped to affect their thinking. So, like Scott was just saying, we got an email that came out basically saying, calm the fuck down. We're on to this, and, didn't panic. We're not going to be appointing somebody in a hurry. We're not going to be appointing Nacho Novo to pacify the fans. We're going to get this right. So, I think the board are aware of it. We saw that Andrew Barrowman had replied to a tweet effectively to say the same thing. We've got a process in place, but they're not going to let. I wouldn't have thought the noise on social media influence what they do. And again, I think just to reiterate as well what Blair had said. It's unfortunate because the board did absolutely nothing wrong as regards David Healy. He applied for the job. They spoke to him. They went to Linfield. They asked permission. That was granted. They negotiated compensation. It was all agreed, and then, for whatever reason, it fell through. So I mean, they've gone about their business in absolutely the right way, and the time is ticking on. Though I think that the real test will be, what happens on Saturday. I think if we don't get a good result, and particularly if the manner of the performance isn't good, then I could see things getting a bit more testy in the stands. And I think if that starts to then filter through to the home gates and the attendances, I think that's when they're going to start to think a bit more about how do they move things forward. But I don't think for a minute that the board are going to be swayed by some raging lunatic umpire in Bovril telling them who they should be appointing.
God knows that there's no shortage of them over there, Leslie.
Actually, see that just really quickly. That's a really good point for Les, though, and I know that there's a very good chance that Andrew Barrowman's going to be listening to this. So I'd actually like to speak directly to Andrew for just a moment. Going to stop replying to the loons, please, because actually all we're doing is giving them a platform. Like, I genuinely think anybody who tweets the CEO of Wraith Rovers to ask him when we're getting a manager is a moron and should not be replied to. Like, it's just at that point, don't do it. Like, I just think we egg the pudding. Sorry, it was really direct, but that's for you, Andrew.
It's fair. It's a broadcast platform, and you've got your opportunity to say what you want. We did get accused in the YouTube comments of being what was it? We were under the boot of a tyrant regime, according to the YouTube comments, which raised a laugh in our group chat. Because,
no, we're just not morons.
Yes, I would agree with that, Blair. But we'll come on to the YouTube comment in a wee bit. Ali, just to come back to you, do you think the sort of situation gaining it feels like the situation's gaining a bit of infamy in terms of football? People are looking from the outside. Do you think that creates a sort of bit of a hindrance for the club, or do you think that Duncan came out in our sort of group chat as being sort of a really good analogy for this situation, that the managers are a bit like the opening person in a horror film when there's a group of people and there's always one person that's like, nah, I'm never going to get caught, and then inevitably they're the first one that gets done in. Do you think that from the outside, managers will still be quite enthusiastic? I know that Scott's mentioned there's sort of maybe a few questions being raised. Is this job as attractive as we maybe thought it was? Or do you think there's going to be a bit of a hindrance now that people will be looking from the outside saying, oh, a couple of people have turned this down, I'm maybe not first choice? What are your thoughts on it?
I think you'll probably get a mixture of all of the above. There will definitely be some managers that might look at it and go, I wonder why, whether it was Peter leaving, didn't take the job, I wonder why David Healy weighed it up and stuck with Linfield. But there are, I would agree with what Duncan was saying, in that there are plenty of ambitious managers. And at the end of the day, we finished second last year. If you look at the squad we've got a really good squad of players. We're a club on the up. So I don't think that we're an unattractive prospect for a manager. I just think there's a wee bit of a perfect storm in that we've made a bold decision to sack Murray after a game. We've gone for a couple of people. The Healy one's kind of fallen flat on its face, and it's just kind of amped up everybody's impatience. I would assume that the board have still got a short list of people, and when they said that they had people applying for it, I don't think you're going to have people retracting those CVs or anything like that. So I'm trusting and hoping that they're acting upon whoever their backup to Healy was.
I think it's a point that's worth maybe remembering as well. Maybe I'm looking at this with heavily Rovers tinted glasses here, but David Healy was never part of the original shortlist. He came in as an external applicant for this job after hearing about it and sort of saying, actually, that looks pretty good. Now, sure, he might have had an ulterior motive to say, actually, I can use this to get a better contract at Linfield, or maybe increase my budget at Linfield, force the board's hand. But at the same time, you're still causing a bit of news to get out there with the job, and people are taking notice of it. So, yeah, nobody knows what's going to happen in the next few weeks, and I think there is that degree where you've just got to sit back and let it happen. And I know that Blair, obviously, you're saying earlier on about me, where I was before, I was like, what'll be will be, and then a week later I'm like, oh God, what's going on? But yeah, you are a very calm head there, Blair. I just wanted to get your thoughts on like the next steps moving forward, and sort of what you would hope for, or is there anyone that's jumping out as you as a potential candidate that you would like, or moving forward?
Honestly, no, is the best way I can put it. I'm not seeing any names that massively make me kind of jump about, but I think we're in a market that's a bit different. So to go back to a point that Scott made about, you know, like, is it an attractive job anymore? I think the number of people that have applied for it, and do you know what I mean, has been said already. Healy was an external applicant. So I think it is attractive, but why are they not taking it is probably more down to the type of job that we're offering. It's not your traditional kind of manager's job. I mean, John McGlynn wouldn't want this job. Like, he just wouldn't. He wouldn't want to come in and work underneath a director and stuff, I don't think. It's just not his style. We could have appointed somebody really quickly, as Les said. We could have stuck Nacho Novo in the job. We could have put John Hughes in. We could have done all of those things and got a manager in really quickly, and it'd be the wrong thing. But I think we're shopping in a slightly different market almost, in that we seem to be looking at, before Healy anyway, we seem to be looking at coaches and coaches that can make a step into management, which I've already said before, I'm not a massive fan of. I've got to be honest. I still think we need somebody that's won something. I think that's probably the difference at the moment, is we need a manager who's won something. And that's where I thought Healy was quite an attractive option. He's won leagues. He knows what it takes to get over the line, albeit in a league where he probably should have been winning it. But you've still got to do it. Do you know what I mean? You've still got to get there. But the whole narrative at the moment about, and I do love the guys on Twitter that say we're a laughing stock and that everybody on the outside is looking at us. I'm like, they're the same guys that get rattled by cartoons on a Saturday. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Rovers put up a cartoon and Dundee United fans go absolutely off their rocker. They're the same guys. Like, nobody on the outside is I would imagine nobody outside of the Championship gives two shits about Wraith Rovers. Nobody outside there, no fan is sitting down in Cheltenham going, haha, you heard this story up north. No one cares. It is just it's a Twitter storm. So in terms of coaching, in terms of names and stuff, no, I've got to be honest, I'm actually quite intrigued. Yeah. I think is the best word. I'm quite intrigued to see where they go next. Healy was totally left field for me. Didn't see it coming. Massively liked it. I massively liked it. I agree with Scott. I don't think your Jack Ryan man is the guy from Ireland to come over and do the job. But that's a joke, by the way. I know his name's Tim Clancy. But I do like the idea of somebody coming in from a league like that. Like, it's an option. Do you know what I mean? Coming in with a bit of knowledge of another league, players that could potentially come in and do a job that are not on anybody else's radar. Yeah, it kind of excites me a little bit. But no hurries. I've got every faith that Potter and Cameron can keep us ticking over, at least for another 2 or 3 weeks if we need to. But just like everybody else, I'm going to panic for the next 2 or 3 weeks regardless.
Blair, I think if there's one thing I've learned over the last few weeks, and I don't learn very much, to be honest, but you know how they say don't get attached to loan signings, or don't fall in love with a loan signing. Don't fall in love with a managerial candidate is my new sort of mantra. Like, I'm getting too attached to these people before they've even came and interviewed for the job, and then I'm like, oh God, I'm gutted. But it's, I think that, I think that's a very valid point. The only people that will know the sort of standard or the calibre of candidates coming through are going to be the ones that are taking the place in the boardroom. As fans, we can only speculate. And I think that works both ways. There will be some candidates that will maybe come in that will be a surprise. So yeah, I'm very intrigued. Does anyone have any sort of final thoughts on the manager position before we move on? Or are we?
I was putting it safe on Tim Clancy. I actually used to live in Ireland. I lived there for 3 years and I went to some of the League of Ireland games, and he did do a good job bringing Drogheda back up into the top tier in Ireland. He then was at St Pat's, who are one of the bigger clubs in Ireland, and he kind of floundered a bit. He left. He then went on to win the FAI Cup, and he's now looking like he's probably going to bring Cork back up. So if you're looking at somebody that can win something, he is on his way to winning the second tier there twice, albeit with Drogheda it was in the COVID season. Obviously, the standard of football will be something that people will question, but if the club were looking at him, he does have a track record for getting a team into the top flight.
Ali, that sounds like someone that actually knows what they're talking about there, which I'm not too sure about for this podcast. We can't even get players. I can't even get people's names right, and they've been on the podcast for 11 months. Right, a little bit of a placeholder statement here, or a statement, more of a sort of point that we're just going to make. We got a comment that I sort of alluded to earlier on the YouTube comments section. And I just want to touch base on this. I'm just going to pull up the comment now because it deserves bodying. It really does. No, it's not the one that was top that said "we are fucked." Right. So, at Kirk Call came in and said, "Why don't you discuss what's really going on with Stanton? ? The genie is out the bottle. Also, the friction between Ian Murray and Potter, which ultimately led to Ian Murray's sacking. Barrow Mem and his bods obviously sided with Potter, and there wasn't room for them both. Poor directorship, but hey, don't discuss it, eh? Are you being told what you can and can't discuss by this tyrant regime?" So, just to start with this, the Sam Stanton bit, that is all sheer speculation. I know that Sam Stanton's put out his own piece on sort of Twitter that has been circulated the rounds. We have nothing to verify or say that, so we can't be the ones to come on. Now, there have been other situations in the past where there's stuff that's gone on behind the doors, closed doors at Starks, which has clearly came on and is fed onto the pitch. So you look at the one I used as an example with Ross Milne last season. With Ross Milne, it was quite clear because he stopped playing, and then the Courier did a piece, and Ian Murray sort of spoke about it at the end. But yeah, with the Stanton situation, it's not our piece to sort of come on and spread rumours. We're not Hello Magazine. We're not going to come on and talk shit or anything like that because we don't know what's happened. And it's between him, John Potter, the rest of the board, and anyone else involved. And then you see sort of obviously comments bringing in like stuff about family and that, which is just, so yeah, just as a point, we're not going to speak about that. If there is anything that comes out in the press, then sure, we would discuss it, but until then, or until there's any movement or anything like that, or if he's back on the pitch playing, we'll speak about him playing. But yeah, has anyone got anything to add to that? Or
just going to say, we absolutely could talk about it, but we don't want to.
And I think that's fair enough.
I'm just going to add one thing as well.
Yeah,
I'm going to add one thing too. Bear in mind, in Scotland, like many countries, there are laws, and they don't just apply to people like Cristiano Ronaldo and David Beckham, they apply to everybody. We cannot go and start talking about stuff because somebody heard something from somebody and put it in the comments. You know, the reason journalists, you know, they've got their sources, they do things, they only run stories if they are confident that they're true. So, you know, until such a time as somebody like the Courier or whoever puts something out, we'll take the lead from them.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And just to go back to our sort of dynamic, the club, we're not affiliated with the club, certainly officially. We certainly kick the arse out any images and things like that Leslie might come up with. But again, we try and support the club as much as possible because we are fans. That's what we're there for. We're just ordinary people. And yeah, it's very much a case that everyone's going to have their views on the situations, the directors, like how they do with the club. Personally, I think they've been really positive and it's been really good. You've seen a lot of progress made over the last year that you'd not seen before. And I think that it's very easy to sit on the outside from behind either a blank Twitter profile where you don't use your name or a YouTube comment section where you don't use your name and you don't use your face. Bearing in mind, we're on here on a podcast, we're very identifiable. We've had people come up to us in the stand, talk to us about the podcast, and then also as well that players' families listen to the podcast. For example, we've mentioned before Lewis Gibson's mum, for example. If we go on and slaughter Lewis Gibson, then that becomes very accountable in terms of the sense that like someone can come up to you and say like, oh, what was that? Whether it's a friend, family member or the player. And that goes across the whole squad.
Just for transparency though, if Lewis Gibson plays murder, I'm going to say that he was murder.
Yeah,
like,
and
I'm not like that's the thing. Like, it's nonsense. It's. I think we've already given this boy more time than he deserves.
100%. So we'll move on because there is a game of foot.
Everybody obviously. To be honest, I actually quite enjoy it when the YouTube comments and the Twitter comments come in once we've put out the podcast, because I actually like hearing about what everybody else thinks about, not obviously what we've talked about, but in general about the Rovers, because everybody's got their own opinion, as we've all said.
And 100%. And we wouldn't
try. At the same time, if somebody's telling me, oh, he doesn't go to a Rovers game, well, if he fancies paying my flights every single week, I'll go.
Same goes for Carol as well, and Les, I imagine you'd be the same. Even for me, it's like us. I mean, I'm a guy that stays on his own, so it's very much a case that it's no cheap living on your own. Like you get your season ticket, and then you look at the away games, and you're picking and choosing where you're going.
Okay, what his reply is going to be this week, eh? Rattled.
Aye, no doubt. It's probably a Dundee United fan. Wouldn't they surprise me? Anyway, we've given that far too much oxygen than it needs. So we'll move on to the Livingston game. So they've started the season with 1 win against our nearest and dearest rivals, Dunfermline, and 2 draws. Ali, how much of a test do you think this is going to be going into Saturday?
Livingston are a kind of hard team to read because, like you say, that they've not lost any of their opening 3 games. But they've drawn the last 2-1-1 and they got beat off Spartans in the League Cup. So I'm quietly confident, especially after listening to John Potter and Paul Hanlon's interviews where they sort of said there was a bit of pepper in folks' step and training, that we're going to approach this one on the front foot. But Livingston are a decent side, with Martindale that they're going to be well drilled. But I think that we can give them a good run for their money anyway.
Yeah, I think that they've started the league very, very well. That was something that John Potter called out a lot in his sort of interview. To go back to the pre-match interviews, Blair, though, Paul Hanlon, he made his official debut last week down at Ayr. How impressed were you by him? And obviously we'd seen him in the pre-season friendlies, but do you think that it was positive to see him back in the squad?
Honestly, he's I said it to my mate, he's a level above. Like, it's the and the show on Sunday, just like I say, just because I was listening to it the other day, and it was about, I think it was Duncan was saying he couldn't remember any other really good chances that they'd had. There was one that Kev had come out and flapped at, and they got a shot off, and it was Hanlon that got the block in to kind of get it away. But even right at the death, but just, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 minutes before they scored, he's chasing balls down in their box, trying to win the ball, and he's overlapping because he sees a space and there's, we're last 5 minutes, why no? Let's go for it kind of thing. And went. Yeah, I was massively impressed. I thought he was absolutely superb on Saturday, and it bodes really well for the rest of the season for me. I think he's a real kind of class act. I think we're really lucky to have him.
Leslie, Paul, keeping it on Paul Hanlon, he was saying in the pre-match the players are aware that there's sort of a need to create more chances. So do you think, again, with what they've been saying in the interviews, are you quite optimistic going into this one that will be a bit more aggressive going forward, especially given that we're at home?
It's quite hard to call. I mean, I was listening to John Potter's interview which came out, and he was talking about injuries and things, and kind of reading between the lines of what he'd said, it sounds like he'll be expecting Vaughan and Stanton back. He was saying something about, injuries can come up at very short notice and we expect it to be minor things. The signal I took from that was that Vaughan and Stanton will be back. The others maybe a wee bit longer. We did, however, see during the week. I mean, I feel like, when the Ukraine war started, you had those open source intelligence guys that were taking like YouTube videos and then were like, tell me what missiles people were using off them. People are like that with the training videos. Like the Oasis video came out, and then the first thing you're thinking is, oh, Callum Fordyce is walking, Scott Brown's walking on the pitch, So I think, the other guys are not far off, but I'm not sure how many of them are going to be back. But I think we're hopefully getting to a stage where we're starting to kind of get these guys bedding in a bit more, and it would be good to see them attacking. I just want to add one thing as well on Paul Hanlon. Paul Hanlon and Lewis Stevenson, between them, have been in the situation that we're in now as a club probably about 40 times between them. Hibs are not known for their loyalty to managers, let's just put it that way. So, having a couple of guys like that on the training ground, just keeping the younger guys right, keeping an eye out for them, that's going to be a real asset. I wouldn't underestimate the value that's going to have, just having two guys in there who've been through this so many times before and just keeping everybody on an even keel. And that's going to count for, I think, as much as what they're offering on the pitch at the moment. But no, I think I'd hope to see us being a bit more aggressive. We'll see who comes back. Stanton, a fit and firing Stanton and a fit and firing Vaughan would be a huge asset, though.
I did enjoy the social media outlet with the Oasis video, and one of the first people to step up was Callum Hanna, and he just says resell, taps his forehead. It's like, aye, fair enough, young man. He's made a really good start to the season actually up at Montrose. Callum still unbeaten, got the man of the match in the TD game last Saturday, which is great to see. So obviously we're keeping an eye on his progress up there. To turn our focus back to Saturday and sort of the Scott. John Potter was in his pre-match interview. He was sort of saying he was keen to stress sort of continuity and the importance for players to keep their focus. So how key do you think that'll be going on as this sort of the manager situation continues to unfold, and obviously with the sort of developments being so widely focused in the press, how key do you think that'll be?
Yeah, I mean, as the guys were saying, like, I think the fact that we've got the likes of Hanlon and Stevenson, I think it just needs to reiterate the fact that these guys have been in an unstable club in terms of managerial merry-go-round so many times that these guys have been in this situation that many times that they can just almost not coach or manage the guys themselves, but like be there as a backup for the likes of Potter and Mickey. If, like, for instance, like Potter's got recruiting and stuff to do as well. Like, I think Graham said in the interview today, saying like, how are you managing the fact that you're recruiting, you're coaching, you're managing, like, how are you doing it all? Like, and he just said, oh, I'm enjoying it. Like, that's what he said. So, like, you kind of look back at it and go, he's probably leaning at times on Mickey to take more, and also the likes of Hanlon, Stevenson, even maybe Bruni as well, the fact that he's the captain now as well. But yeah, I think the fact that I don't think with how I think it's more of a worry if we were a young squad like a Queen's Park or that sort of thing. The fact that everybody keeps going on about, oh, yous are all like ancient that yous have got in a squad, but at the end of the day, if you've got plenty of experience, everybody will know what's going on in the background in terms of, like, look, the board will deal with it. And I would imagine that Barrowman, because of how transparent he's been with the club, with the fans, since day one, since he walked in, I think the fact that he's been like that, he'll be like that with the players, and probably having, if not weekly meetings, probably more than every week, just to let them know, look, such and such has been going on, this is what's going to happen now, we're in a process and we're close. They've probably told them on Friday we're really close with Healy. They've not told them who, but they've probably went, we're extremely close. And then Monday they went, it fell through. Like, and they've probably just went, oh, well, that's great. But at the end of the day, Potter and Mickey have just got to keep them focused, as you say, and get them, like, Saturday. I do fear a little bit if we did lose on Saturday purely for the reaction more than anything. I seriously hope that we get something out of the game purely for the board's sake, to be honest.
I think that's a bit where I was like before the Partick game. I was a bit worried before that one that like you think of the South Stand and the reaction that it might be is will it be a negative reaction? But if you get that win, it changes the sort of the feeling. And you could probably say that this week I think it's been a bit more difficult as well because of the fact that we lost it here, and you see that they've developed quite a gap at the top of the table. Them and Falkirk have obviously came out the blocks flying. So yeah. A bit of transfer talk during the week, Ali. The Couriers sort of came in repeatedly linking us to Max Kucheravi of St Johnstone. So what were your thoughts on that? I know that obviously we've got quite a lot of... Do you think that was a bit of a surprise given the number of midfielders that we've got?
Yeah.
Where were you at with that?
Maybe a wee bit. I mean, if you looked at the positions in the squad that you would think would be a priority, you wouldn't say centre mid anyway. But at the same time, he looks like a decent young player. He's got a reasonable number of games under his belt. And I think I'd said it in our group chat. I thought maybe that the logic might be that you bring him in and have him as a squad player, and it might allow one of either Montague or Nicholson to go out on a loan and get game time. You'd rather have someone else's lone player warming your bench than a young lad that could be developing. But also, like, I suppose, I mean, some of the lads in the squad, like Sean Byrne, are not in their younger years of their career. Maybe you want to manage their minutes a bit. Maybe towards the end of a game you want to throw in a centre mid that's got a wee bit more energy. I don't know. I think it'd be a decent signing. I'm certainly not turning my nose up at him or anything.
Blair, what did you make when you saw that come through? Were you?
It honestly reminded me of playing Football Manager. When you used to, like, you're playing Football Manager and it pops up and says, like, if I'm the Rovers manager, whatever, it's Wraith Rovers are interested in so-and-so. And I go, oh, who's that? I've never actually heard of him. And you click on him and then you go, oh, actually, yeah, he's all right. I'll maybe go after him and I'll maybe sign him. To be honest with you, the more I think about these stories, it's the same with the manager thing. Duncan got me thinking about the odds for the bookies. If they're all over evens, they don't have a clue. Mm-hmm. As soon as they think they know who it is, it'll drop. So if it's above that, and I wonder about these stories where it's like, Wraith Rovers are interested in so-and-so or Partick are interested in so-and-so. Like, they don't have to verify it. It's like what Les is saying, their sources and they don't, because they're not saying an offer has been put in or they have reached out and asked to speak to the player. They're just saying is interested in. They'd be as well right in Wraith Rovers have heard of Max Kucherev. Like, it doesn't actually mean anything. Maybe we are, maybe we're not. I'm not convinced that at this point that with how tight-lipped the whole manager situation has been, that our signing interests are going to leak that quickly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't seem to make any sense. It reeks of an agent trying to force a move.
Even with Lewis Jamieson, like, that came really out of the blue. Yeah. Like, there wasn't anything in the press before that. And again,
it was like the day before.
Aye.
I think the day before there was kind of his name was mentioned, but like from nowhere.
Aye. Yeah, it's the only other player that we've been linked to was a Twitter account out of Abuja, Nigeria, was linking us to a player that was with Accrington Stanley. So things are very quiet on the transfer talk.
Was that the boy that fell over taking the penalty?
It was indeed, Blair. But
I saw that.
I think
that made me chuckle like that. Get him in.
It's very funny when you see people talk about the transfer window with Wraith Rovers because let's be honest, the transfer window is going to be tied up with clubs that are paying for fees, and that's not Wraith Rovers. Like, we're just.
I still think we're done. I think we're done in signings, outright signings, because I think the idea of trying to get Healy in or get the manager in was to give him a week to go after him, and see if he can get somebody. We're now loan market. I don't see us pursuing signings now. It's going to be loans.
A lot of it will come down to who we actually have in as the manager, because it might be that Potter again has this list of players that he would like to speculatively take forward, and then the manager says, actually, I'm not really too keen on that, or looking forward to that. To go back to the game on Saturday, Livingston, bit of a spread in terms of their goals. Scott Pittman's got a couple, Matthew Clark and Stephen Kelly have both chipped in with one. They signed Stevie May recently. So yeah, Leslie, just is there any sort of key threats that are standing out for that Livy team for you, or are you just, again, is it a bit more difficult given that they came down from the Premier League and they're, I mean, we've played them in sort of spates over the last few years in the Scottish Cup, but very different situation now.
It's, to be honest, it's kind of hard to know what to expect. So I had a wee look before I came on at the squad just to see who's there. So, Stevie May's come in, who could be a decent player at championship level if he's able to keep himself fit. We saw with Livy in the cup last season, how they play. It's not like last season when you had a Dundee United coming down and you saw players like Moult where you're like, that guy could really hurt you. There's nobody that kind of stands out as being, this is somebody that should be playing at Premier League level and isn't. But, I think with Livy, what you maybe see is a slightly different kind of challenge. So we've had teams that have come down, Dundee United being one, Hearts, if you go back a wee bit further, where they've clearly had a much bigger budget and a bigger fan base. That's not necessarily the case with Livy. And in some ways that might make it a little bit, not harder, but just a bit more challenging. Because you've got a team that are used to scrapping around with a limited budget. And you've got David Martindale, who's very good at that. And as Ali says, they're still unbeaten. So, to be honest, I really don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect from them. I'm not sure how much they've changed their playing style compared to last season in the Premier League, when like we talked about, they were all giant, they were all like extras out of gladiators. I don't know how much that's changed. I don't know how much they're now opening up and attacking a bit more because they can or because they have to. So it's a very tough one for me to call, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, I've got over very little. I know that we did the preview draft sort of podcast, and Blair, your continual question when we came through to players with Livingston was, tell me about player X.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, we don't really know too much about it, and I know that that's probably not the best for a podcast, but if you go out and do your research. But yeah, I was
going to say, the one thing I would say is, see if this was a Livingston podcast, just for a moment. If we were a Livingston podcast and you're thinking about Wraith Rovers at the weekend, what would you say? And in my head, I'm thinking they've still not scored from open play. They've been defeated twice. They've scored from a penalty. They've got no manager. They seem to have no real fit striker. Like, it's do you know what I mean? Like, as optimistic as I am, and I do genuinely think we've got a good squad, like, the cards are stacked against us a little bit in that regard. I don't think they're going to be coming to Kirkcaldy quaking in their boots anyway, the way things are at the moment. But I think if we can get Vaughan back in, that maybe gives us a bit of an option. But that's a big if. Do you know what I mean? And if he is playing, how long can he play? It kind of feels like it's got 0-0 written all over it. But yeah.
I think that's, again, before that Partick game, I was sitting looking at their squad and I was thinking, this could be really rough for us. But then the longer the game goes on, the more it went settled. Like, yeah, it's very hard to see. And I think given that we've not seen any major shift in terms of how we've played since Ian Murray left as well, I think that you'd be looking at, if it is going to be a win, it'll be a Rovers. It's going to be a narrow Rovers win or a narrow Livingston win. I think you'd be quite surprised if it was one way or the other. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it was a draw. So we'll go into our lineups and predictions now. So Scott, do you want to kick us off? Have you got a lineup there for us? Did you get a chance to put one together?
I put one together earlier on, but half of them we don't even know if they're going to play. Like, I've got guys in there that have been injured and have run for weeks, so every week we keep hearing, oh, everyone's getting a bit closer or everybody's back training and stuff like that. So I just go, well, that means they're available for selection then, in my head. So I've actually got, this week, I've gone for a 3-5-2. I just think the fact that they hinted at a back three doing it air and then just fooled everyone and played Lewis Stevenson at right back kind of made me think, well, why not go a back three when we've got the options to do it? Like, I really don't see Liam Dick playing left back that often this season whilst we've got Lewis Stevenson. I know he did it at the weekend, but I just don't see it happening that often. So I would go with a back three, Ewan Murray, Hanlon, with Liam Dick on the left side of the back three, but obviously Kevin goals as well. I would play Josh Mullen as the sort of right wing back, if you want to say it, but at the end of the day, he hopefully shouldn't be needing to do too much defending. Lewis Stevenson is the left wing back. Then my three in midfield would be Matthews, Brown, because I think that we actually need him back now, the fact that Burns suspended. And then I've got Easton in there as well. Although Easton can get sort of more a free role if he's got the likes of Matthews and Brown beside him. And then I've got Callum Smith and actually Lewis Vaughan up front. Whether, again, Vaughan's fit enough, I don't know. If not, I wouldn't be against throwing Jameson in, to be honest, now that he's had a full week's training. And, I mean, Potter was talking him up, saying he was looking sharp, so why not?
Yeah. And Leslie, have you got a line up there for us?
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of thinking, so the news came through today that Aaron Hickey's had another bad injury. It's going to basically keep him out for the whole of the season. I thought Scotland are just like the Rovers. You know, you look at Scotland, just like the Rovers, and you think, we're going to be brilliant when everyone's fit. And nobody ever is fit. So, and likewise, it's the right-back position where we maybe don't have anybody for this week. So I've gone with a back four, I think. So I think we'll go with clearly Dubrovsky in goals. I think we'll go with Stevenson at left-back. I think we'll go with Hanlon and Murray at centre-back. I think we'll go Matthews at right back. I then think we will see Brown and Stanton in the kind of two, Stanton sitting a bit deeper. I think we'll see Easton at sort of 10, Gibson on the left, Mullen on the right, and Callum Smith starting up front. Please, somebody tell me I don't have 12 players out there.
No, you're all good.
Good. Because I was kind of going through and I thought, right, actually, I've got extra space here. I can slot somebody in. That's good, yeah. That's what I think will happen.
Cool. And Ali, for you?
I went for a back four as well, the same as Les. I actually think, I was looking at the forwards for Livy, and it's probably going to be Yenge and Muirhead, and I think Murray and Hanlon will match up quite well against them. I kind of fancy the two of them. So I've got the same back four as Les. I've got Scott Brown sitting in front. I've got Stanton in my team. I think if he's fit, he plays. He's our best player. And then I've got Easton and Mullen out wide, and Smith and Jameson up top. I thought Jameson looked really bright in spells against the air. I thought he was making some good runs. So I would just chuck him in and see what he can do. And I'm hesitant to throw Vaughan back in the start lineup, seeing as we did that, and then he was away for 2 weeks again. So I'd have him coming off the bench late on in the game.
I think it really emphasises home, like the point that was made earlier. I think it's by Scott just sort of saying how difficult it is, because that we don't know who's going to be coming. Potter's alluded to like 2 players coming back, but we don't know who it is. It's going to be a bit of a mystery as to who it'll be. Blair, what about for you?
So again, a very different lineup. That's 3 very different lineups. I'm going to chuck a 4th one in. So I thought the only mistake that Potter made down at Ayr was Dick and Stevenson were on the wrong sides. Because it was funny, we were in the bus going down and we were going through all the options. Once the team line came out, you go through everything. And I said, like, maybe Dick will play right back. Nah, never happened. It's going to be a back 3. Never for a second did I think Stevenson at right back. Because Stevenson offers you something that Dick doesn't at left back. But Dick, I think, offers you exactly what Dick offers you on the left as what he does on the right. He'll defend. He'll defend all day. He's not going to attack. Do you know what I mean? It's not really in his kind of nature. So I'd go Kevin goals. I would go Stevenson at left back, Hanlon and Murray for exactly the same reason as Ali. I think that's got those 2 written all over it. I would go, if depending on whether Freeman's fit, because he's obviously been pretty close apparently a couple of times. But Dick or Freeman at right back for me. Matthews in the holding. I don't think Brown will play. I think he's probably close, but I'm not sure he's fit enough yet. I was on Saturday a wee bit disappointed with Dylan Easton's performance. Not massively, that sounds really critical, but he was a wee bit quieter than he was against Partick. I really liked him in that central role against Partick, but it just never really came off for him down at Ayr. But I'd like to keep him in there. But the one player I was really impressed with on Saturday was Josh Mullen. I thought he was really good, and particularly when he went into that role quite late on. They went kind of 3-4-3. 3-4-2, I should say, because they were a man down. But quite late on, they went to the sort of 4 in the middle. So I'd put Mullen in there. Gibson on the left wing, Connolly on the right wing, and Jameson up front. So that 4-1-4-1 that they've been kind of working on for the last couple of weeks, trying to keep the same kind of shape. But he's not going to do that. He'll do something totally different.
It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. For me, I've gone with Kevin Goals, Stevenson left back, Murray and Hanlon as your centre backs. Again, big caveat, but if he is back, I would have Freeman in right back. I think it would be good to have a sort of natural right back in for this game. Again, if Scott Brown's fit, comes right back in. Matthews as well for your sort of two holding players. Gibson and Mullen on the wings with Easton as a number 10. Again, I would caveat that if Stanton's fit, I would have Stanton in there. And I would like to see Jameson up top. Be quite intrigued to see what he can offer. Any predictions for starters, Scott? What are you going for a score prediction?
Prediction, this could be anything. Tell you what, I think it's actually going to be quite boring on Saturday. I'm going 0-0.
Gee, so thanks for that, Scott. I'll go. That's fair. That's fair. Leslie,
I'm going 1-1.
Ali,
I'm going to go 2-1 Rovers with the caveat that we need to score first if we want to win the game. If we go 1-0 down, I'll be a bit worried.
and Blair, how about for you?
Both teams not to score is my prediction. I'm with Scott. I think it could be 0-0, but wouldn't surprise me 1-0 either way.
Yeah.
I think there's a goal in the game, if that.
I think I can understand why everyone's gone relatively low key in the predictions for this one. I rate Rovers, but what are you waiting on? I'll go 2-0 Rovers. Why not? Change it up a wee bit. Someone's got to be daft on here, then why not? So yeah, we'll look forward to Saturday, see what it brings, and the surprises that'll be the starting lineup come 2 o'clock, no doubt. So we will now move on and we'll have a round of Should McStay or Should Dargo. Leslie's done the honours of preparing us with a map of Montrose, apparently, and some teasers that you've just thrown us off, I think, Les. So if you'd like to begin, that'd be great.
Right. I'm doing the thing. I didn't realise that Duncan does this as well when he has them. I always make a wee table of who's guessed what, not for any sort of reason. But I just do that, and I've kind of got into the habit of doing it. So there we are. That's my table made out. So, clue 1. For Wraith Rovers, I averaged 1 goal every 378 minutes, according to Transfermarkt and my maths.
Can I get a calculator out? Am I allowed a calculator? I'm not Googling anything, I promise.
If that's how you teach chemistry, I'm surprised there are not more massive explosions in Fife.
That's a goal every 5 games.
4.2. That's what I was calculating. So I could not be bothered trying to divide it by 90 in my head.
I thought it was 1-4, but is it 5? So
right. Well, see, if it's Zach Rudden, he only scored twice. That means he played 8 games. So he's got to have played for 4.2.
He scored more than twice.
He's got to have played a multiple of 5 at least. So he has to have played 5 games. He has to have scored 5 games and scored once.
Yeah, I'll stick with Rudden. Don't come in here with your logic and reasoning, Blair.
I am.
I've got a feeling that Leslie wouldn't go really for somebody quite recent.
That's what I'm thinking. I've got the Armandoni in my head, you see. That was a great one, by the way.
Really early 2000s in my head, I know. I'm sitting going through who was like a non-prolific striker that we had.
Speaking of non-prolific strikers, just been notified that Ollie McBurney has scored for Las Palmas, who now lead against Real Madrid.
Lovely.
That's nothing to do with Ollie McBurney and everything to do with coaching. You know, that magnificent human being in the coaching staff at Las Palmas.
I'll go Damien Casalanovo.
Oh, I was going to leave it earlier than that.
It's the most Les shout ever. I love it.
I'll go Scott Crab.
Okay.
Scott Crab. The names you forgot.
I think I'll go for Ian Williamson.
Okay.
It's going to be Ian Williamson then, isn't it?
Well done, round it off.
Ali's first guess. Which, by the way, I listened to that show climbing Mount Teide on my bike. Very impressed, Ali. The whole way up, I'm going, he's right. He's not stop arguing with him. He's right.
Okay, clue number 2. My full name has got 30 letters in it.
For goodness sake. It's certainly no Scott Crab anyway.
There's no Zach Rudden.
Bear in mind, that's like middle names, everything, so...
Ramon Pereira.
You just stole my guess.
Good.
He's Spanish. He's probably got about 4 middle names.
That's the thing. Everyone's just like, right, foreign players.
It's the only sort of Calderon forward that I really remember going proper scoring.
Like, you think back to even all these French boys and you go, did any of them have like loads of middle names? Like that we only knew their first and their surname.
See, the thing is, there's other players I want to chip in with now, but I'm keeping Stum just in case they come up later on.
He's probably, again, it was kind of around the time that I started going, so I don't really know stats and stuff with it, but I'll guess that he's got loads of middle names. Hamid Sacco.
Okay.
I'll stick with Casa.
I'm drawing a blank because I thought Ramon Pereira would be a decent shout. Go for Martin Prest.
Okay.
Oh, he did have that Hugo in the middle, didn't he?
Was it load of O's in it, like?
Hugo.
It's Alan Temple calling him.
So it was 30 letters.
30 letters in his full name. The name that would be on this guy's passport, there are 30 letters.
Wow. So obscure.
So, clue 3. During my time, managers I've played for include but are not limited to John McGlynn, Craig Levine and Dick Campbell.
Sorry, this is the managers they've played under in Scotland?
Managers they've played under in Scotland include but are not limited to.
Oh, okay, right.
Hjalmar Ferrarensen.
Who?
Is that just a name of football manager?
I've never heard of that boy.
Now that's not, just to be clear, you don't have to answer this, Les. You can plead the fifth here. That was just managed. I must be actually ignoring me because Dick Campbell's never managed the Rovers.
Yeah.
I was thinking he must have played for Craig Levine for the Rovers, but he doesn't necessarily have to have been. Actually, doesn't necessarily have to have any of those as a Wraith Rovers manager.
I'm going to guess surely
Question is-
McGlynn was under the Rovers.
Now, Damien Castelnuovo definitely played for McGlynn.
Mm-hmm.
He probably played under Levine at United.
Dick
But
Campbell.
Dick
though.
Campbell.
Was he ever on
I
loan
don't
at
think it's
Arbroath
Damien.
at any point?
But Dick Campbell, remember, has managed everybody but us.
Yeah, I should have retired after my Ryan Hardy guess because I'm struggling this time.
See, this is where my knowledge lets me down. Because he did play. Casa played for somebody else in Scotland. Is it Hamilton? No. Maybe. Ayr? No.
Just 39 more to
I'm
go.
going to stick with. I know, I'm going to stick with Casa.
I've genuinely not a clue, so whoever my last guess was, just stick with it, even though it's not right.
Campbell's.
Hamed Sacco.
Aye, it's certainly not him, but
Dick Campbell.
It's not him, but I'll say Gregory Taddy to fill a
Okay.
blank.
We had his cousin. Stranger Things.
Okay. So, clue 4. Like a very recent answer, I have played against Busquets. I have not played against Ryan McCord, but I have been on the training ground with him.
Oh my God, Les, could you make this any more obscure?
just the fact that it was Damon Nutton and I couldn't sleep that night, Lewis Toshney.
How many middle names has Lewis Toshney got, by the way, for 30 letters?
Loads.
So
I've just made them up.
Busquets, he has played with. No, played against.
Played against Busquets.
And
Has
he's
not played with Ryan McCord, but
He's trained
has
with him.
trained with him.
Yes. To make it a little bit simpler, he was a teammate of
Right.
Ryan McCord.
but never played with him. It's two names I certainly didn't expect to be in the same question. Sergio Busquets.
So it's
and
got to be
Raul.
United, because it's got to be that friendly.
Could be Hibs.
It has to be.
But then I suppose McGlynn and Levine.
Because that gives you your Craig Levine, because Levine
Aye.
would have been in charge.
Maybe he had a loan spell at whoever Dick Campbell was at the time.
Yeah.
We're going back to how it normally does. We'll all just work this out together.
Well, Hjalmar
At the last
Harrison
minute,
was
somebody
not-
will turn on the rest of you.
Probably Robbie.
No comment. um,
I feel
I'm
like I'm
trying
wondering.
my hardest not to do a Callum and just name players for the sake of it that haven't actually
Oh,
played
right.
for Rovers.
Oh, oh nah.
Nearly had.
Yeah, it would work. Scott Robinson, sorry. No, Scott Robertson.
Yeah.
Robertson. I'm trying to think if he would have played with McCord. I don't think he would have.
How many middle names has he got?
Robertson's quite
That's
long,
a-
you know.
It's a good shout, actually. And you never know. It's like you can have multiple middle names as well. That's the thing. Right.
I'm trying to write it down. Scott Robertson. 1, 2, 3.
Surely can't be more
I can't even counting the letters in his name.
It
He
can't be more
scored
than 14 together with Scott Robertson.
because he can't have played that many games. Who did he score against, though? He might have scored in McKinnon's season.
I think I remember him scoring once. But
Aye.
I couldn't
But
tell
then
you
who
who it was
would they-
against.
Who would they have been under McGlynn with? Because he'd gone from us by the
God knows.
time that McGlynn
Who would they
came
have
in.
played
Really?
under Dick Campbell for, I know?
He played at Arbroath for a spell. I remember
Did he?
that.
He did.
So
Okay.
I shouldn't be backing up Blair's hypothesis here.
How many letters is it, Blair, so you can do it for us?
14.
Oh.
For my count. I could be wrong. So he's got to have 16's worth of them with the whole name.
So Martin, Allen, Robertson.
Jesus.
Well, it wasn't Hjalmar for Harrison anyway, so
Mind you, I suppose if he played in that game, he would have played with Ryan McCord.
But they played them twice over a period, didn't they? Like, they played them over 2 friendlies at different points. They played them an
Barca
earlier
have
one.
been over a couple of times to
Because they
play.
played Hibs at Murrayfield, and then they played United a couple of times as well.
I mean,
I was going to say, did Craig Levine's Scotland play Spain? And is it a player?
Oh, that's a good shout.
Because we're going down one rabbit hole, and I'm wondering, there's another one. I'm not going to name it.
Christoph Berra.
Scott Robertson was capped once.
Well, I'll go with Scott Robertson if you're going with Christoph Berra.
I'll go Christoph Berra.
Right.
Ali, I think you've just nailed it.
It's funny.
Berra's never played under Dick Campbell, has he? Come on.
It's funny because he was the name that came into my head, but I didn't think he had anything to do with Dick Campbell. But he was the.
His first name's Christoph. He's bound to have big, long middle names.
I was thinking Levine on.
He's already down a digit on what you'd usually expect. Like
exactly.
His middle name's Didier, if you want to count it out. I'm pretty sure. Genuinely.
Is it really?
Yeah, his dad's French. I think. Yeah, genuinely.
How did you know that?
I don't know. Really random facts. I don't have an answer for those facts.
I wish this was live because you would actually be able to see the people switching off. Just for that. Too far. It's too far.
I was about to say we must surely be due another clue because we're really not.
Right,
we're going in circles here.
So Robbie's got Scott Robertson, Blair's got Christoph Berra, Scott's got Lewis Toshney. Ali, have you got any advance on Gregory Taddy?
No, but I know it's not.
Okay, now the next clue. Now this is the one you've all been waiting for.
Oh, Christ.
All the clubs I played for, the closest to the sea has been 500 metres. The furthest from the sea has been 646 miles.
I'm sticking with Scott Robertson.
Have I just given you the game?
I wonder if you might have. Because he played in Azerbaijan or somewhere like that, eh?
But he's never played under McGlynn.
Sorry, Leslie, can you repeat it, please?
So of the clubs I've played for, the one whose home ground has been closest to the sea has only been 500 metres from the sea. The club that I've played for that is furthest from the sea is 646 miles from the sea.
Now I'm doubting if Arbroath's even 500 metres from the sea, because it doesn't feel that.
500 metres from the sea, to be fair, could be about Starch Park. If that's the sea.
Nah,
do we classify that as sea?
It's a teal burn the sea.
Starch Park's more than a par 5 away for the sea.
Get the golf knowledge. I like that.
My guess was actually going to be...
John Greer was just about to take off his headphones there, and then he's just...
My guess was thinking it could have been like East Fife or something, but again, that feels like it's closer than 500 metres.
We've not even got a position. Normally, Finlay Leadsworth, he's a defender or a midfielder, so we can at least narrow this shit down.
I feel like we need to start asking yes and no questions just to get anywhere near this. It's like what's the show?
I'm really disappointed if the next clue is so obvious that everybody gets it straight away, Liz.
I feel like it's like that unmasked programme on the fucking TV or something that we're just like, what's going on here?
Singer.
Has anybody got any more advances? So I've got Robbie putting down Scott Robertson for clue 5.
I'm going to go back to Damien Castelnuovo.
I don't think it's the worst shout, though.
So
that's
confused.
The thing. The only one
Dick Campbell really threw me off a lot of players.
Because he retired after coming back to us with the second spell. He went back to
just to be clear, Liz, that was what you said, wasn't it? He has been managed by Dick Campbell.
Yes, he has been managed by Dick Campbell.
See, Casa did play for another Scottish team. Someone in my head says Hamilton.
I think
Dick's never been at Hamilton.
Right.
I feel like I remember him seeing in like red and white and all, to be fair, so it could well have been Hamilton.
Because he left Hamilton and then he came to us and then he scored that outrageous chip.
Was Dick Campbell a manager of Hamilton?
No. but I'm
Alright.
saying
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he ever has.
he wasn't. But Castle and Oval,
But
I'm
Castle
sure was at
was.
Hamilton.
Like, if Dick Campbell wasn't
What a
there, I
player.
would have gone back to an old guess of mine of, like, Rudy Scatchell or something. But, like,
Scatchell and Campbell just
that's the only thing that kind of puts me off. He could have well have played for bloody against Busquets for, like, Czech Republic under 21s or something. I thought it might get easier.
that
That was never said.
But I'm going to wait for clue 6.
Is anybody going to put anything else in before we come out with clue 6? Because I am kind of concerned clue 6 could start a feeding frenzy.
Jesus.
I'll go. I don't think it's Gregory Thaddy. I'll go Jason Thompson just for the Arbroath link, but he's definitely not got one goal every 4 in a big games.
Scott?
Or played against Busquets.
What's it?
It's so obscure.
Right. Clue 6. I played in 2 of the most memorable Scottish Cup games in Wraith Rovers' recent history, but I missed probably our biggest Scottish Cup game for a century.
Johnny Russell.
Levine, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, Campbell, no.
He was
Forfar.
cup-tied for the semi-final.
Ah, Forfar.
The disgust in Blair's voice there.
I loved Johnny Russell too.
Really good loan signing. Really good loan signing. He would have played against Busquets in the MLS for Kansas City or wherever he's at.
How many middle names has Johnny Russell got, like?
Johnny Russell's full name is Jonathan Simpson Snedden Russell. Jonathan is spelt with
So
an
it's
extra H at the start.
So it's the answer then.
That is indeed the answer. Well done, Robbie.
And Kansas
Well done.
is 646 miles away from the sea.
It's one of those ones that if you'd kind of thought about where in the world you might have somewhere that far from the sea where there's a football team, the penny could have dropped.
I think Scott Robertson though was a really, really good shout.
was.
That's why I stole it from Blair when it came up because we'd meet the.
So what was the Busquets thing then?
So he played against Busquets last week, or 2 weeks ago, for Sporting Kansas against Inter Miami. He was at Dundee United at the same time as Ryan McCord. They were never in the same team together. They were kind of out on loans at different points, but he would have trained with him.
I worked. That's a really good one, Les.
I mean,
I say really good. It was really hard.
See that last clue? If given longer than Robbie's thinking time there, I think I might have got round to it, but I was never getting it that quick.
I would never have got it because I'd forgotten about Forfar. I would never have picked him for Dick
Well,
Campbell.
I just knew that Johnny Russell was cup tied for that semi-final, and he mentioned the missing arguably the biggest one. So I went, well, who missed the semi-final?
Yeah. I don't know what it was.
Ali was actually really close. Ali's first guess was right era, right team, just the wrong wing.
Aye.
Nearly did it. Nearly did the double.
That was good.
Aye, really good work.
That was good.
Well, thank you for taking the time to listen and going through that turmoil with us. I feel like we had a bit of therapy with the manager talking, then we've all just certainly gone back to...
I'm knackered.
Aye. The stress of Should McStay or Should Dargo. Just a quick reminder to everyone, if you have got this far, to please get in your Week 5 Prediction League guesses. Blair sent out an email about that, unless your email inbox is full, and we've had a bounce back, which a few guilty parties have came through on that one. Come on, guys, clear up your emails. And then, last but not least, Stephen Watt is doing a cycle for a charity cycle, basically, this weekend in aid of Parkinson's and helping with that. I put up a retweet to that on Twitter, and I'll try and put a link in as well on the YouTube show notes as well. But yeah, once again, thank you for taking the time to listen. We will no doubt be back with a full debrief after the Livingston game to look back on hopefully a memorable result. And once again, we're still waiting to smash that emergency podcast button when the new manager time comes. But thanks again for taking the time to listen, and bye for now.